right, so the Warren County Salary Board, September 14th at 1 p.m. will commence. I'm going to open with a pledge and then a little silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the record, is the camera rolling? Is the camera rolling?
The red light flash.
Okay. Oh wait, did we have the other conversation on there?
I'm very good at taking care of the erroneous stuff.
Okay, for the newspaper that is now watching that. It had nothing to do with county business.
Oh goodness, well, we have before us the minutes from August 11th, 2022. Ask that you review them and let me know if there are any changes or corrections we need to make.
I move the approval of the meeting minutes.
Okay,
I'll
second?
second it, and just with, I provided Pam with a minor edit, just
Okay,
one letter was capitalized that didn't need it.
Okay.
She's gonna take care of
all right, thank you for that. All those signify in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so there are many old items on the agenda, that's nice, and new item is Loan 1 salary adjustment for Deputy Director of Public Safety. We do have some materials before us that will kind of relate specifically to the Director of Public Safety and his role. I guess I'll turn it over to you, Ken.
Sure. Thank you very much for your time. So before us is a proposal to increase the salary up to $10,000 for Deputy Director Cale Asp. Deputy Director Asp has a career advancement opportunity in front of him to take other employment with the state. He is a very key member of my management team. He oversees several of our larger, more complicated technical projects, which are listed out before you. And I feel like it would take a significant amount of time, money, and effort to try and replace him on these projects. I feel that the fees in consultants and advisors alone to move forward with this raise, the amount of money that we would spend for consultants and whatnot to do what he typically does would far exceed what I'm asking for in a salary increase for him.
And then, as I'm reading down through here, it looks like we have other revenues that are coming in that are going to increase in 2023 that can continue to offset the increase that we would add to this position.
Yes, ma'am, including our 911 funding, our Forest County 911 funding, which isn't set in stone because no one signed the contract yet, but both sets of commissioners will need to sign that contract. And then we also have some unfilled positions that we're desperately trying to fill, but they're presently unfilled, so there's additional salary left over there.
Any other questions? Okay.
So, just one, Ken, what would you, if he were to leave, what's your expectation of finding the expertise based on, I mean, granted, you haven't hired that position for a while, but what would you think it would be like to find someone?
Well, I hired him 4 years ago. I hired him specifically. I headhunted him out because he was the man with the expertise. And at that time, there was no one else that I was looking at for that position. To have the specific skill set that he has, I don't believe that person exists in the region that I could tap to step in and hit the ground running with these big projects.
Well, I was reading Wall Street Journal that they've actually 500,000 people have left the workforce since COVID as a result of COVID. That's a lot of people,
It is, and
particularly in rural America when we don't have as many choices. So I guess I would ask, what the board thoughts are as far as motions to approve of the request of a change in this particular person's wage by up to $10,000.
Well, from my viewpoint, looking at what I understand our 911 center to be and what Ken encounters with turnover of people and the situation that he's encountering overall, and this is a critical person to his operation. I would say I would be in favor of allowing him to make an offer to try to keep him. If you think about it, I guess if I was a commissioner, I guess it's my understanding that you're charged with the safety of the county and the people. And this being an integral part of what takes care of that, I guess I would take a hard look at it with what we can do, and then understanding with what's been presented here, that the piece we don't see is what is he currently saving us from not having to hire people? And maybe if we don't have invoices,
Right.
but if we don't have them, we might be able to measure it if we don't do it. Okay? So I guess I would be in support of it.
Okay. Second to that motion?
I guess I will formally make a motion to allow Ken to offer up to $10,000 as requested to see if we can keep him.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, a couple quick things. First of all, just to clarify, the county commissioners are responsible for the emergency communication system, but not for public safety, generally speaking.
Okay.
Which is an important distinction because we can get dragged into things that are not our bailiwick. However, if there's anything in the law that is absolutely abundantly clear that we do have a responsibility to do, it is this, and it is this position. I wasn't going to argue, but I did want to at least state for the record that although I am supportive of this, it's with some trepidation, and mainly it is because we have set a principle that we're not going to do mid-year increases. We have, however, been able to do bonuses for people that have gone above and beyond, and I think it's clear to me that Cale has done that repeatedly over the years. I mean, he's the kind of guy that I find at the warehouse on a Saturday evening, like working on a sheriff's vehicle. It's not even his job. I mean, the guy goes above and beyond. It's absolutely true that he's more knowledgeable, frankly, than anyone in this county on emergency radio systems, generally speaking, especially our own. Not to dig at you, I'm just saying, like,
Right.
he's top notch. He's the only person that can fill that position, and you're absolutely right that we would be spending more money if we didn't offer him something. However, given the principle, the only workaround that I can see, which was my proposal, and I get that you don't want to do it, but I just want to state it for the record, is that you give him a bonus for 2022 with an increase to be in effect in 2023. Same money, but you get to save the principal and still hopefully keep Cal.
I don't understand how that's any different than increasing his wage.
Because we can say that it was because of his exceptional work in this year.
We can say a lot of things. Anybody else is gonna say that it's a wage increase, either way.
It's still a bonus, and frankly, I would rather give him a bonus because of the work that he's done regardless of whether he stays or not. I'd rather authorize like up to $5,000 or something for exceptional work in 2022, thank him for his work, and hopefully he takes that as a gesture and stays, and if he doesn't, then you still get the bonus because he did exceptional work and it saved us a lot of money.
So we have a motion on the table for an increase in wage up to $10,000, and we have a second.
Right,
And then we have a conversation here.
right. I'm not bothering to make a motion, I'm just voicing my opposition to
Okay.
the.
So I guess following Ben's idea, if we go, let's just use 10,000 for argument's sake. If we were to say he gets 10,000, well, that's gonna start and go forward, right?
Yes.
Correct.
So in effect,
Right.
a bonus could
Get some money now.
give him some money, carry us to January 1st, and then have it go in with the stated value of whatever we agree upon. And then it kicks in January 1st.
I think the question he's gonna ask is, what is the pay gonna be in January 1st?
Right.
That's what I mean.
So we're gonna, I mean, either way, we're just.
That would be part of the
kicking it
motion.
down the road, is the
Well, I
truth.
mean, it's six or half the, six or one half dozen of the other.
Yep.
I mean, my thing is I don't necessarily, like the idea of raising wages because we have somebody who we want to keep per se, and the position is, we're setting the salary for the position. It would have been my preference to look at all of the 911 non-union positions at this meeting and address that. That said, this position from my perspective is underpaid, given the technical skill required to do it, and if we had to replace him with anybody, I don't know that we would get the caliber of person that we would want at the current wage. So that's why I support the wage increase for the position. I think that, there's a very real chance that the person that currently occupies it isn't going to keep it even if we offer him the increase, and we're going to need to hire somebody that has enough technical skill to monitor these systems. They've gotten too complicated. It's not like it was even 10 years ago. So, so from my perspective, the position itself warrants an increased wage, especially in this job market.
And I think just a comment to what you had mentioned about the 911 people, I think Lisa's part of what's going on in the budgetary process is looking at what, where we stand across the board as it relates to positions and pay entering into the new budget season. So from my perspective, I do support that. I would hope that he would consider staying and, even just managing out these projects, which I can easily say that spending money on a contractor would be, I would guess, much more expensive than a pay increase over time. So I am supportive. We have a motion, we have a second, we have discussion. So I would ask that we determine.
I just want to say one more thing along the lines of what Commissioner Craftfield says. I agree with him on the principle of trying to avoid mid-year pay increases. I agree with that, but generally speaking, that's the goal that we should try to achieve. And honestly, I probably wouldn't push for this as much if there haven't been times that we've already made mid-year pay increases. So the goal generally is to avoid that. In this case, I don't see any way around it without creating a lot of headaches, other headaches. So
We're also in a very difficult labor market, and that we have to roll with some of the punches as we move forward. And if we have, from a budgetary perspective, if we have most of the wage covered with some of the changes that we're making, increases that we're receiving, that's really where that garners my support as a result. So, all right, I'll call for a motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Is there any reason for an executive session?
But I do have one more comment.
Certainly.
We did the HES study how many years ago now and successfully brought up non-union wages to comparison with similar sized counties. I think there was a lot of problems with how that was rolled down and such, but it was better than it was. We had no standard before, now we have a standard that's subpar, but at least it's something. I think it's time to update that in advance of the 2023 budget. I know that I've said this several times, but it's budget season and something needs to be done. I would like to see, kind of the logic of like the Pickett's Act, some sort of pay grade system where there's an algorithm that essentially determines what people make based on their responsibility, how much money they can save the county, how many people are under them, how much of what size budget they manage, that kind of thing. So that we have grades and there's no more question as to whether we are paying somebody enough or not. If we don't have that kind of line in the sand, then next month we're going to be in the same position where there's going to be 3 other people that want increases and say that they have, other offers, because they probably do in this labor market. So anyway, again, I want to call on the board to act on that. I would also note that next Thursday, I'm going to be meeting with Nancy Hess, just because we're both in Harrisburg and we want to catch up. So I don't necessarily think that hiring Ms. Hess again would be the solution, but at minimum, I'd like to discuss it with her, perhaps J.O. Making Associates as well, see what other counties are doing. I know that J.O. Making has done now wage studies and come up with similar products for several counties in northwest Pennsylvania. So it was just a matter of expanding their existing contract to make that happen. I would very much like the board to endorse that idea.
I think I agree with that. I think my perspective on it is if we're going to have an agency do it, we're going to do it ourselves, that we should stipulate in the RFP that they call the individual counties and get the actual staff ratios and everything, so that.
So it's not a compare. What I'm saying is that moving from a comparison to other counties model was better than nothing.
Yeah.
But I want to move away from that. I want to move towards this position should be paid at X grade because they manage this number of people, this amount of budget.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean,
So we're not comparing against some county on the other side of the state. We're comparing, all right, if you have management ability, fiscal management ability, whatever, we're trying to keep you here rather than go to URC or Northwest or whatever. I'm saying we need to think about how we're trying to attract people in our own market, not just kind of base wages off of other counties that may or may not be accurate and may be radically different labor market than what we're in.
Well, I mean, I guess I agree with the idea of adding that. I think there's a challenge of getting an apples to apples comparison in that case, but I think that that's a good idea to include that in it. My preference would be you do Clarion, Elk, McKean, Crawford, the ones in the region. Those are the ones that are surveyed. Those are the ones that we compare against, and then go from there. Like along with the stuff that you're talking about.
Well, I mean, given that Lisa is overseeing the budget and looking at some of this right now, I guess I would prefer to reach out to her and ask her to make some suggestions to us about what next steps should be and how we would roll that out, whether it be GL, Nick, or Hess, or whomever. She's taken a much deeper dive into that than we have been, so it makes sense to come back with a recommendation.
So let me just ask, so I know basically in the Hess study wasn't basically CCAP information put on the spreadsheet.
Yes.
Now, if there's someone that's doing that that you're aware of, this other company you're referring to, that might have more, I guess, a deeper dive into the information, that can be a resource. But I had a little bit of an issue with basically paying the amount of money we did for the lady to put the information into a spreadsheet based on CCAP information. To me, we could do that ourselves. But if there's somebody that can provide more information to what like Ben and Jeff are referring to, then I guess if they've already done it and that's what their bailiwick is, then I'd be interested in that, not just someone putting information into a spreadsheet.
One quick defense of Nancy, we only paid her like $1,000.
I thought it was $2,500.
I don't think it was $2,000, but either way, she spent legitimate hours just calling through the data. I don't think that was bad, like it was a waste of money by any means. But the advantage of moving to somebody that's doing comparisons is the fact that not only are they doing comparison to current wages, but the fact that they structured most of the deals with other counties means that they're able to benchmark off of future wages rather than just current. Because we're always a couple of years behind on the data. We're at this point probably like 5.
So I think that they've done that already. They should be able to provide a sample and a sample contract and a whole thing related to it, and we can take a look at that.
Okay, that's good. Can we task Lisa with going about that, please? Okay.
I'm sitting like
She's
this.
in.
So she was looking for something to do today.